So the top 1000 ratings have been released, so what we're going to be doing today is finding the best web app investments. So just before the video does start, a quick little ad on a trading service I offer over on Twitch. For the cheapest premium trading service for just £4, €4, or free with Amazon Prime. You'll get yourself daily trading and investing guides covering both Xbox and PlayStation with an array of different techniques depending on your budget. I've been trading for over 10 years, making over 100 million on multiple titles, and recently making over 10 million in the first month for the last 3 years. So before you actually do invest in meta players, you actually want to buy advanced SBC players, but eventually we'll get to the point, and it'll probably be 24 hours after the web app's been out, where the advanced SBC players are probably hitting their max. So then what you want to do is you want to go and sell those players and then invest in your meta players. So what we're going to be doing is looking through the new list of players and finding out the best investments. We're going to be looking at last year's investments, and then we're going to be looking at what is the criteria for the players to rise the most for the amount of coins you put into them. So before we talk about this year what to invest in, we might as well have a little look at previous years. Now, I've done extensive research on this in previous years, and basically, I mean, it's not very shocking, but you really only want to be investing in French players and Premier League players. Now, you do get the odd player that does quite well, but the problem with this is it's a lot less trial and tested. As in, you're kind of gambling on the meta. It was a little bit like last year. Hakimi ended up being quite meta, Llorente ended up being quite meta, and De Jong ended up being quite meta. But in previous years, they wouldn't have been as meta. So basically, it's more, it's more of a gamble. Whereas if you wanted to play it safe, you're basically just going to be picking Premier League and French players because, as we know, they're the only teams that people build on FIFA. So, we might as well have a little bit look at some of the previous players who've done well. Again, I've been through many a different card. I've looked into players who've had one-to-watches and were hyped up to get one-to-watches, and obviously as a result hyped up to get out of packs. And they really didn't do as well as, I say, the really trial and tested French and Prem. But let's just start off here with Mendy. Gone from a nice little 50 to 110. Decent rule of thumb. If you're moving anywhere from about 70% increase to 100% increase, you're looking good. You've got like Mendy did very well last year. You've got likes of Carl Walker, went from 31 to 87. Obviously, even though we had Cancelo wasn't outdoing Walker. Another consistent trend in this is if there is a lack of competition, they do well. I feel like that's for obvious reasons. If there's not that many good right backs, or if he's one of the best Premier League right backs, everyone's going to be buying him rather than if you've got a Walker and let's say there was someone as good. Let's say Hakimi moved to the Prem. Obviously, then it's split between 50-50 rather than just obviously everyone using one player. You then got Llorente, and this is what I mean by trial and tested. Sorry, not trial and tested. This is more of a gamble. Is that Llorente was, extremely expensive last year. I can't speak, but there'll be players of like Llorente's caliber who, because they're not in the Prem or the French, they'll maybe flop from the previous year because again, they're not guaranteed to be the so-called meta as such. But they got the likes of Llorente, and then we're back to French or Prem again. We got Dembele. Now Dembele actually didn't have a very interesting rise on the likes of PlayStation. On Xbox it was very good, and then obviously down the line it was a little bit nicer over on the PlayStation. Rashford obviously looking very nice, 50 to 180 right there. Now the problem with this is the data from day one wouldn't be the most accurate in the world, but I've done insane research in previous years, and it is just Prem and French is trial and tested. But again, won't bore you too much. Conde, French did very well there, 10 to 24k. Aubameyang right there, 36 to 50, 3k. Upamecano, because I was testing all the one-to-watch players. I think he had a 15k price range, then went up to 21 and then 25. But with him, you've got a level of safety because we're obviously very sure he was going to get one-to-watch. Then we've got Werner, 34 to 50k. Flip-flopped them. We've got 10k to 20k. And finally end off here with Joe Gomez, who is 26k, went up to 50k. So the overall research shouts players who are 10k to 30k and no more than 50k are the look of investing. So now basically what we're going to do is we're going to look at the FIFA 23 players, French and Prem players, and I'm going to go and look who do I think will be between 10 to 30k, who will then rise upwards of 20 to about 60, 90k. So without further ado, do a bit of research and show you guys what I've come up with. So very safe bets, and the first person we are going to bring up is going to be the likes of Carl Walker. Carl Walker is once again absolutely dominating his position. We do have the likes of Cancelo, but I think he's taking a bit of a hit in pace, therefore making Walker a lot more, a lot nicer. Wan-Bissaka's been absolutely destroyed, which literally, and even Mbabu's been destroyed, which means in the Premier League you are literally left with 2 right backs, plus I guess you could say Trent, but I wouldn't say Trent would be too favourable because obviously we know that the only relevant stat in FIFA is pace. So Walker given that he's under 50k, I would shout as one of the best web app investments, post you obviously buying and selling advanced SBC fodder. The next player I'd go with would be the likes of Zakaria. Zakaria is actually very interesting because I've been scouting out the CDMs and centre mids from the Prem, and there's no one that has really pace anywhere near him. He's also got very, very nice stats. He's a brand new card, which means he's very hyped. Obviously, he was relatively popular last year, and he's going to have that one to watch hype. So I can see Zakaria being a very, very popular card because he's literally a player that there's, very few of. Now, don't be too surprised if he generally is upwards of about 10 to 20 and, even pushing mid-20s. Because, again, he is almost a one-of-a-kind sort of card. We don't have the, Oruku, the Nigerian CDM, and he was insanely popular. And he was obviously Nigerian from Brentford, which would be a much less desired combination than obviously Zakaria. So I do think Zakaria will be, once again, another really, really nice web app investment. So then we come to Raheem Sterling. Not too sure if he will be below 50k because he generally is one of the best left wings in the Prem and one of the best right wings in the Prem. That combined with he's going to have that one to watch hype around him, he should be a very, very nice card. Now, on the left side, you've got the likes of Diaz, who would be his main competition for his, I'd say, price range. And right wings, you generally have Salah. And then you kind of have a pool of Sterling and Anthony, because a lot of the other players are very slow and, relatively undesired. So, yeah, Sterling, I would say, the next one. So now we're going to get our last investment in the Prem, and that is going to be the likes of Rashford, because basically Rashford is going to go and fill the quota for both skills, and he is going to fill the quota for pace. The Premier League strikers is a bit of an interesting situation, because a lot of the players there either have 3-star skills and they're fast, or they have 4-star skills and they're slow, and Rashford is kind of like a, middle-of-the-road sort of thing for both of them. Obviously, 5-star skills. On top of that, Rashford is one of the most proven players to rise every single time. Again, if people use the same cards every year, they get very familiar, and they just go and buy the same players. It's a little bit of a reason why you go French Prem, because people are so familiar with buying the same players every year that they'll go and buy them without even trying them. I mean, we're talking players on the web app here, so people aren't actually trying any of these cards. All these people are buying their teams just going off of what they think will be good, and again, people like going with what is trial and tested. So that is going to wrap up the Premier League web app investments. Now let's move underway with French investments. So let's start off with the defenders with the French, and we're going to start off with Mendy. Mendy is such a proven player, but this year he's even better because you've got the likes of Rudiger, who looks really good. Militao seems to have had an upgrade. Vinicius Jr.'s looking really good. Obviously, Valverde's card looks great. So it's a proven player, plus this year I'd say his links look even better. So I would hedge my bets towards Mendy. Again, we're getting below 50k, you've definitely got to be buying him within the first 24 hours, maybe even faster. And the next player is Theo Hernandez. Well, what I quite like about Theo Hernandez is, first off, he did very well last year. And second off, this is kind of a way of gambling on the likes of Tomori. Now, like I said earlier, Tomori has a chance of becoming the unicorn player, the player that becomes the new meta. Obviously, it's a lot easier in hindsight to see the new meta than, to predict it. But how you can use Hernandez is anyone who uses Tomori is more likely than not going to use Hernandez because he gives off that really, really good strong link. Which means if Tomori is being mass used, Hernandez is going to get mass used. But the nice thing about Hernandez is he's not a gamble because he's French, and French players aren't really a gamble, whereas Tomori is a gamble. So this is a way of indirectly gambling on Tomori being the meta without really having the risk of actually he's a flop and maybe he's not as good and so on and so on. So that is why I quite like Hernandez, because it's an indirect way to invest in Tomori. Someone I very easily could have put in the Prem, but I didn't in the end, is St. Maxim. Now the best thing about St. Maxim is he's one of the best Premier League left wings, and he's also one of the best French left wings. Which means if, again, people are going down the Prem route or the French route, it really doesn't matter because they'll probably be using St. Maxim. Again, a very proven player. The problem with him last year, I think he had a bit of a high price range and people were buying him at the price range from the get-go, which was 30k, which meant that he didn't actually rise because there were so many people purchasing thinking his price range was low that, that there ended up being more people investing than actually demanded him. But again, he's had a nice little rating upgrade, he's had nice stats upgrades, and again, he's had a pretty decent year in being quite a hyped up player. So that is the likes of St. Maxim. And where there is St. Maxim, there is Dembele. Once again, a very, very popular player. He's got that double 5-star. I generally think he'll be part of almost the cheap meta set, which is the sort of teams you'll be seeing people running. Once again, the problem is I'm not quite sure if you will be able to get him below 50k unless you do obviously buy him in the first 24 hours. But yeah, there you go. Like Dembele, I feel like a relatively obvious call. And again, ending off with this, I could always guarantee Nkuku won't be below 50k, but if he is below 50k, brilliant. 5-star skills, 3-star weak foot, generally the best French striker apart from Mbappe. Obviously, he can play anywhere from striker to cam, which means his utility to use him in the formations is brilliant. So I like that. And then we'll end it off with the likes of Mr. Ben Yedder. Once again, a proven player over like 4 years. So we know there is going to be guaranteed demand. Obviously, Nkuku does threaten a little bit, but I don't think you've got too much to worry with the likes of Ben Yedder. So that is going to wrap it up for my Premier League and French players I would be looking on the web app. Again, you are looking to buy these players. So for the first, I'd say 12 to 24 hours, you're looking to buy advanced SBC fodder. Then the advanced SBC fodder should double, triple, or even quadruple if you're lucky. And then that's when you'll look at buying meta players, because they'll slowly rise throughout the web app as, you know, no one's packing these players, but they're packing cheaper players, and they're going to use those coins they get from packing the cheaper players to go and buy said metas, rising and rising and rising. But that is going to wrap it up. Thank you very much for watching today's video regarding ratings. Should actually be live right now. I should be streaming from 6 in the morning till 7 PM, talking about the ratings, talking about investments, talking about your starter teams, pricing your starter teams, and so on and so on. But thanks for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow with a brand new video.